Week 1 of wedding sewing is complete and it has been so much messier than I anticipated. Last week I made 5 flower girl dresses. Yeah, 5. It was a lot and they're super cute, but I ended up with this amount of scraps. These are like basically unusable white scraps and I really just can't stand the idea of throwing away fabric. So I'm gonna make a dress out of them. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jane. Last year I taught myself how to sew and I kind of have a passion for sewing with secondhand materials and creating really funky clothing. I don't think that because you're using a tablecloth or a curtain or a bedsheet, it has to be boring. So with all that in mind, today we're gonna be making a dress out of my scraps and I've done this so many times. I'm actually kind of obsessed with it. And I actually have a video about making a skirt like this, so you can go check that out. It'll be linked below if you're interested. That video is pretty in-depth and explains very thoroughly how I do this. However, the challenge for today is to do this dress today in one day. And I know that that's a lot. And I am already kind of burnt out from sewing because I sewed 5 dresses last week. But I think it can be done. Also, I said in the title that this is for my rehearsal dinner. I don't know if it for sure will be for my rehearsal dinner, but it will be for something for my wedding. So it doesn't really matter what for. I'm just gonna decide that after it's sewn. Plan of action. We're gonna be making a dress very, very similar to this one. I made this last year. It's so beautiful. I love it. I feel like a 60s does Middle Ages medieval princess. Like, does that make sense? Do you see the vision? Anyway, that's the plan. However, I am going to make the dress a little bit longer. I'm thinking midi length and it will be white. And I think I kind of want to do white into color with my scraps. They're all going to go underneath a white organza curtain so that it's pretty uniform. But I do love the white into color moment. I've done that a lot and I'm still not over it. So yeah. This pattern is self-drafted and as soon as I'm done with wedding sewing, I'm reorganizing my pattern situation because it really is a mess, but it's somewhere in here. I do label everything. First of all, modify that pattern. I'm not like advocating for my system here. It's really disorganized. I just haven't had the time to organize it yet. It's really on my to-do list. This dress is the perfect length for me. I did make this. It's out of a 100% polyester tablecloth. Genuinely one of the ugliest fabrics I've ever seen. I bought it at a Goodwill outlet, but it turned out to be the prettiest dress. But anyway, that's not the point. Point is, this is the length, so I'm just gonna measure this to figure out how long I want the dress to be from shoulder seam all the way down to the bottom. We'll go with 44 inches so that we have some room for him. Sleeve is the last part of this. I actually really prefer self-drafting my patterns. They don't always work out exactly perfectly, but I just find it so frustrating when I'm using a store-bought pattern and the fit isn't perfect. Like, why did I even buy it or like go through the work of using a pattern? I could have just made my own. So I really prefer doing my own patterns. This is going to be a large sleeve. I love a large sleeve. And also the sleeve for this dress is not going to be quilted. It's just going to be organza, which is what makes it look like a medieval princess vibe kind of thing. So yeah, that's the plan. And it's a bit of a puffed sleeve at the top of the sleeve, but where the most volume is actually towards the bottom of the sleeve. And I kind of prefer that look. I like when it's like this sleeve actually, where it's kind of really gathered at the bottom of the sleeve and not so much at the top, just a little bit at the top. I think it's super cute. I also do add a little bit of extra length so that it has that like balloon lantern kind of effect. The name for the sleeve is one of those 2 nouns, but I don't know which. It is 10:53 a.m. and pattern is cut out. Next step for this project is cutting out my pattern from my fabric. I'm going to be doing 2 fabric pieces for each of my pattern pieces, 1 out of organza and 1 out of cotton. You can do whatever kind of fabric you want for the lining of the piece, but essentially how this technique works is you cut out your pattern pieces out of a cotton or a lining and then a see-through piece of fabric, and then you put your scraps in between the 2 and sandwich them together and sew lines, or quilt them, I guess you could say. You're not using batting, but it's still basically the same thing as quilting. I also just wanted to say that I am doing this project in a day, but I'm not rushing it. Like, I'll take more than a day if I need to. I don't believe in rushing projects. If you're going to put time into something, you might as well put as much time as it needs. So yeah, I did just want to say that. Like, don't watch this video and think that I'm rushing through it. I'm really not. I'm taking the time that it needs. Because last week I made the flower girl dresses, I had bought a ton of cream colored organza from Goodwill. Really, really large pieces of fabric. And I still have so much left over, which is kind of why I wanted to do this project, because I don't have any other plans for this. So I'm not worried about having enough fabric for this. Got backups. This is like my millionth sheet that I've cut up in this wedding sewing process, and it's only the second week of doing this, but at least it's white. I have no problem using fitted sheets whenever I'm using bed sheets in my sewing, but I do prefer to cut the elastic out of them before starting to cut out my pattern pieces. It is 12:15 and I have cut out all of my pattern pieces. They're right back there, except for the cuffs. Now, this dress has these shimmery sleeves, whoops, but the cuffs are quilted and they're really pretty, and I hand beaded this dress that I made. It's seriously like so pretty. I love it. I think that these cuffs are just about 7 inches by 4 inches, so I'll go ahead and cut those out and then the pattern pieces will be done. All right, to get into the construction of this garment, if you have questions, I would recommend checking out my other video where I go more in depth into this process, but I essentially just ironed out my cotton before I placed a bunch of scraps on top of it. I made sure to do a gradient effect, so I just chopped up all my white scraps and then colorful scraps and kind of sprinkled them throughout. I kind of feel like I'm doing a science experiment whenever I'm doing this, because I just am like perfecting the mixture. But then once I have all of that placed on there, I do place my organza curtain on top of the scraps and the cotton, and then I pin it in place. This usually takes about 50 to 100 pins, so it is a pretty lengthy process. It is 2:30 and I have good news and bad news. Good news is that this pattern piece is done. There's the front of it. That is my first one. I also did the cuffs, but that's not very important. And it goes from white into kind of colorful, but still overtone of white, which I think is pretty. Bad news is that this is super flimsy and thin and is not gonna be thick enough for the drape that I want on this dress. So I'm gonna have to line the entire piece, and I'm gonna use another cotton bed sheet. I think I'm gonna use a bright pink bed sheet, but I'll get into more of that later. I'm just gonna have to get the rest of these done. I have 7 more pattern pieces to go. So not bad, just a little time consuming. It is 4:20 and my second pattern piece is done, and yeah, I'm moving at a slow pace. I just keep getting distracted and my friends keep calling me, but everybody's on spring break right now, so kind of, you know, busy making plans. But I'm just sewing. I'm just trying to sew. So that's what it looks like. Okay, for real, down to business. It is 6:50 and first 4 pieces are done. Yeah, I'm moving kind of slow. I got distracted again. It's 10:30. I finished all my pattern pieces and I am going to be done for tonight. Aftermath of a project. It is 9:30 on the next day. I'm not gonna lie, I slept in this morning, so this dress might not be done by 10:30 a.m. because that's when I started it yesterday, but we could just ignore that fact because I haven't really been working on it this morning. I'm going to cut out my lining pieces, which is just the same 8 pattern pieces as my dress, and I'm going to cut them out of this pink bed sheet because I bought this because I love the color, but I don't know what else I would do with it because it's kind of a lightweight cotton, but not really like a shirting cotton. So I have no other use for it, and I think it'll be a pretty nice lining. So that's what we're gonna do. I did make my dress that I'm wearing right now out of a tablecloth, and I think it's really cool. Also, last night I went on a Elsa Schiaparelli deep dive, and she is so cool. I'm like ready to get this dress done so I can do something funky and surrealist and epic because her work genuinely has inspired me so much. Obviously, this dress is quite simple in compared to her work, but I'm still really inspired. It is 9:56 and my lining pieces are cut out, and honestly I might get this done pretty quickly because I just have to iron everything, put everything together, do some finishing touches, and then I am good. I'm feeling quite happy with the progression of events here. 10:30 a.m. and construction is beginning. Front of the dress is done and the colors are actually so beautiful. I really like it. It was a bit big and so I had to take in like half an inch at every single seam, which was kind of annoying, but I'm very happy with it. Length is actually perfect and the gradient from white into color is really pretty in my opinion. Okay, now I have to put the back pieces together and I'm debating on whether I'm gonna put the zipper in after the lining is fully attached or before the lining's fully attached so that the zipper could be hidden in some way, but I'll elaborate more once I sew the back pieces together. Well, it is close to being a dress, but it is not quite a dress yet. I feel like in this case, close doesn't really count because this is what we've got. I'm going to put the front and back pieces together for all of these pieces. So then I'll have one piece of lining and one piece of my actual fabric. And then I'll put those two together at the top seam, right sides together. And that will be kind of my facing or whatever, so that the top seam is totally finished. And then I thought to myself as I was ironing this would be so beautiful with an entire line of buttons down the back of it, except my back pieces are not big enough to accommodate for buttons because buttonholes take a little bit more seam allowance than a zipper. So I can't do that, but that basically just means I have to make this dress again, maybe in a different color or maybe in a different fabric, so that I can do a nice line of buttons down the back. But it is quite pretty and I'm very excited to finish it. And I also have a sneaking suspicion that I'm gonna end up beading it and putting sequins on it because I just can't resist. But that's not gonna be a part of this, you know, how long does it take me to make the dress, because that doesn't count. That's just a bonus. That's just turning a 10-hour project into a 20-hour project, which is unnecessary but very, very fun. So it's like 12 o'clock, but I have the dress put together. There are a few problems, as always with sewing. The length of it is great, right? The pattern actually fits really well, but I'm not gonna take my dress off right now that I'm wearing underneath it. That's not cute. That is really not cute. And it's also big on me, which is fine because now I can do my row of buttons, which is so exciting. It's gonna be perfect whenever I do my buttons. Oh, the color is actually really pretty. And the shape of it's really good. This situation's not great, so I'm gonna put the lining onto it right sides together and just sew the lining on a couple inches below this. And that way both the lining and this will be exactly the same, because I don't wanna cut this and then cut the lining and then sew them together because then they wouldn't be the same. And we need it to be the same. So that's the plan. I'm just gonna pin them together right sides together and sew about, I think, probably about 3 inches lower in the center point and just do a natural curve going up. And that's my plan. It might seem like I'm winging this and not doing things accurately, but this is generally how I sew. It works best for me. So I think that's gonna work out pretty good. So there's a lot of cleaning up to be done, but it's kind of perfect. I actually really like it. This silhouette right now, U-shaped cap sleeve kind of situation, I like it. This is what it would look like with the sleeve. I do think that it's so pretty right now, just like this. But I'm gonna go ahead and add the sleeve because I do like the sleeve as well. It adds a little bit of drama. Oh, and it's 12:30, so doing pretty good on time. I do need to kind of get this wrapped up. I need to attach my sleeves to my little cuffs, and I have to do that by hand because it's just too complicated. There's a lot of fabric right here. So yeah, gonna get on that. I forgot to mention the very crucial step of hemming my skirt. Obviously, as you can tell from this video, it was very uneven. I'm not great at making the bottom of my pattern pieces line up super well, so I always just add a couple of extra inches and then just trim whatever's longer off. But I just ran this through my serger with the blade part of the serger on, and then I folded it under, ironed it, and just did a straight stitch along there, and I think it turned out pretty good, very even, so that's always a plus. It is 1:40 p.m. We're running out of time. It's taken longer than I expected. Anyway, these are the sleeves and I love them. I genuinely think that this is my favorite kind of sleeve. Just the like sheer fabric. It feels like water on your skin. It's just really, really refreshing. I can't even explain it. I'm not being dramatic. It just does feel really good. I mean, I'm being a little dramatic, but excited to attach these to the bodice. And then we have to sew about 20 buttonholes. I'm okay with that. I do a lot of buttonholes and I'm kind of getting pretty good at them, honestly. Just kidding. I don't know if anybody's really great at buttonholes, but I'm trying my best. So let me attach the sleeves to the bodice. It is 2:15 p.m. This is my second day of making this and the buttonholes are complete. The only step left is to sew the buttons on. There's 13 buttonholes, so it's probably gonna take me about 30 minutes to sew the buttons on, but I have to put a pause on this project for now. I just don't have time to finish it today. I said that I was going to make this dress in one day, and while I did not accomplish that, I would say I came pretty close. 2 days is all right. Adding buttons did lengthen the process a little bit, and I'm actually very pleasantly surprised by how it turns out. I think it's really pretty and I'm excited to wear it. I don't know if I'm going to be wearing it for sure for my rehearsal dinner, but it is a white dress that will be worn during the wedding season that is approaching. If you've watched this far in the video, I'm so happy that you're here. If you're interested in seeing more of me, you can find me on Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok at Jane's Dresses. All of that will be linked below, and I hope you have a lovely day. Cue the montage of me running around twirling in this dress.